The movie opens deep in the woods where a terrified man is running for his life, desperately trying to escape someone chasing him. But in the end, he's caught and thrown straight into a blazing fire. Right after that, we're introduced to another man named Lucas, who is tied to a bed and shaking with fear. An elderly man approaches him and congratulates him, explaining that he has become the winner of a bizarre competition. Because of that, Ingrid has chosen him to be the ideal father of her future child. The old man proudly tells Lucas that they've been waiting for years to create this perfect baby. A moment later, Lucas is forced to provide a sperm sample so Ingrid can become pregnant. The story then jumps forward by 1 year. In a massive mansion, a young woman named Ayla is having breakfast with her mother, Camilla. Today is Ayla's birthday, but instead of being excited, she seems worried. She's afraid that if things go wrong again, just like last time, she'll disappoint her family. Camilla reassures her, saying that if it doesn't work out this year, they can always try again next year. Ayla then reveals that this year she has selected 6 boys for something important they are planning. Meanwhile, a young man named Tom is traveling somewhere with his father, David. Tom is trying hard to present himself as a wealthy businessman. He tells his father that he has a special date with a girl that night and plans to stay over so he can network and meet new people. David warns him to be careful and reminds him that if anything goes wrong, he should send their special code word, balloon, so David can come pick him up immediately. Before leaving, Tom borrows his father's expensive watch to make himself look even richer. Soon he arrives at a gigantic mansion where the same girl, Ayla, greets him with a warm smile. As soon as he steps inside, Tom is amazed by the mansion's luxurious architecture. Ayla notices his expensive watch, compliments it, and begins giving him a tour of the house. Before taking him into one particular room, she asks him to close his eyes because she wants to show him something special. But the moment Tom opens them, he's completely horrified. Inside the room, 5 other boys are already sitting there, tied to chairs. Before Tom can even process what he's seeing, he's knocked unconscious. When he finally wakes up, he discovers that he has been tied up just like the others. To make things even worse, each of them has been marked with an identification symbol on their bodies. Ayla welcomes everyone with a smile and tells them that tonight is going to be unforgettable. She then introduces each of the captives one by one. The first is Marcus, a former Olympic athlete. After finding protection in his wallet, Ayla mocks him, joking that he's clearly a man who likes to plan far ahead. The second is Damien, a brilliant doctor whose mistake once cost a patient their life. The third is Joe, an intelligent stockbroker. The fourth is Francis, the youngest drummer in the group. Ayla praises his musical talent and says she wishes her future children could be just as gifted. The fifth is Tom, a man she met online. And finally, there's Connor, a professional photographer. Ayla reveals that over the past year, she has carefully lured each of them into her web of love using different methods. She then removes the gags from their mouths and explains why they've been brought here. According to Ayla, they are about to take part in a deadly game, and only one of them will emerge as the winner, the man who will give her the perfect child. The moment those words leave her mouth, everyone in the room is horrified. Connor immediately threatens Ayla, warning her that if he ever escapes, he'll kill her. He keeps demanding his freedom and refuses to take part in what he calls a sick and twisted game. But without any warning, Ayla pulls the trigger. A gunshot echoes through the room, and Connor's head explodes instantly. That horrifying moment marks the true beginning of this nightmare. Ayla calmly looks at the remaining captives and asks if anyone else has something to say. Terrified, Damien begs her to let him go, but Ayla simply smiles and replies that the night has only just begun. She explains that she chose each of them for a reason. Every man possesses a unique talent or exceptional quality, and she wants her future child to inherit only the very best traits. That's why she has gathered them all here and turned it into a deadly competition. Ayla then calls for her assistant, Edward, who is also her father. Edward explains the rules to everyone. Wasaf warns them that trying to escape, contacting anyone outside, or breaking any rule will be the same as inviting death. No player is allowed to kill another player unless Ayla personally gives the order. After every game, one loser will be chosen, and the punishment will be death. In the end, the last survivor will become the father of Ayla's child. Edward then takes Connor's body away and burns it before the first game begins. The challenge is a test of focus and memory. Ayla hands everyone a piece of paper and a pen and starts asking questions. What was she wearing when they first met? How old is she? And why do they think they were brought here? When time runs out and she checks the answers, Joe and Damien score the highest with the best responses. Marcus, however, fails to answer a single question correctly and ends up with the lowest score. As punishment for losing, Ayla brings out a large knife and brutally stabs Marcus in the leg. Marcus screams and writhes in agony. Damien begs her to treat his wound, but Ayla says she intentionally struck a spot that wouldn't kill him right away because he still has another chance to prove himself. Edward bandages Marcus's injury, but Ayla is clearly unhappy about it. Shortly afterward, she leaves the room with Edward. The moment they're gone, the boys begin planning their escape. Tom asks Marcus for the knife so he can cut everyone's ropes, but Damien refuses, knowing that removing the blade could cost Marcus his life. They search the room but can't find anything else useful for escaping. Little by little, they realize that this game was designed to break them both mentally and physically. Meanwhile, Ayla complains to her mother, Kamla, that Edward treated Marcus without her permission. Kamla says Edward broke the rules and deserves to be punished as well. She presses a button on a remote, activating a device implanted inside Edward's body. Instantly, he is hit with a powerful electric shock. At the same time, the boys discover that Ayla has already taken possession of their car keys, phones, and all of their belongings. To make matters worse, surveillance cameras are installed throughout the room, making it clear that they are being watched every second of the day. Just then, Ayla returns and starts the second game. It's a card game similar to blackjack, but with its own twisted rules. Everyone has to draw cards, but the total value of their cards must stay below 21. Anyone who goes over 21 loses. Joe starts the game first, and then the others take their turns one by one. Meanwhile, Tom's father, David, arrives at a cafe while waiting for his son. There he meets a woman named Chris. David explains that he's waiting for his son because he's worried about him. Chris smiles and says that her father used to worry about her in exactly the same way. Back at the house, the game continues, and Marcus loses once again. When it's Damien's turn, Joe advises him not to take another card since Marcus has already lost. Hearing this makes Marcus even more nervous. Ayla smiles and remarks that the players have started looking out for each other. Finally, she announces that Marcus has lost for the second time and pulls out a gun to execute him. Everyone turns pale with fear. But before pulling the trigger, Ayla gives Marcus a strange opportunity. She reminds him that he once claimed he would kill anyone for his girlfriend. Handing him the gun, she tells him that he can save himself by shooting one of the other boys. Terrified, Marcus immediately pulls the trigger, but the gun isn't loaded. Not a single bullet is inside. Ayla is simply playing with their fear and emotions. After that, Ayla begins the third game. In this round, everyone can vote to eliminate one player. However, the group ends up choosing both Damien and Marcus. For the moment, Ayla spares Marcus and decides to test Damien's loyalty instead. She knows that Damien never touches alcohol, so she forces him to drink an entire bottle. She threatens to kill him if he refuses. With no other choice, Damien drinks the whole bottle. Now Ayla picks up the gun once again to kill Marcus, since he has lost 3 games in a row. But just then, Damien steps forward and says that he wants to do it himself. Ayla hands him the gun. Marcus sarcastically says that killing someone shouldn't be difficult for Damien because he has already taken a patient's life before. Those words cut deep, and an intense argument breaks out between the two. Then, without warning, Damien turns the gun on himself and pulls the trigger. Everyone is left stunned. No one saw that coming, but Ayla doesn't seem affected at all. Smiling coldly, she immediately calls Edward and orders him to clean up the mess. Then she instructs the remaining contestants to head downstairs for the next stage of the competition. As soon as they leave the room, a gas-like smoke begins spreading through the area. Within seconds, everyone loses consciousness. Meanwhile, in another room, the same old man seen at the beginning of the movie is sitting at a distance, carefully watching the entire competition unfold. It is then revealed that he is actually Ayla's grandfather. Elsewhere, a frustrated Ayla tells her mother, Camilla, that so far a photographer and a doctor have already died, and she's beginning to think she may never find the right man. Camilla tries to reassure her, explaining that finding the perfect partner takes time. She shares old family stories about how she met Edward and how even Ayla's grandfather spent a long time searching before finding her grandmother. Encouraging her daughter, Camilla confidently says that before this night is over, she will surely find her soulmate. On the other hand, David is almost asleep after waiting so long for his son. Chris, who works at the cafe, feels sorry for him. He reminds her of her own father, so she kindly offers David a place to rest. Sometime later, Joe, Tom, Marcus, and Francis regain consciousness. They discover that they are chained to the floor. Suddenly, Ayla's voice echoes through a speaker. She tells them that trying to escape is pointless. She then points out the black bands attached to their ankles and reveals that they are not just tracking devices, they can also deliver powerful electric shocks. After that, she announces a new game, a test of willpower. Behind each contestant is an envelope containing a different command. As they read the instructions, they are horrified. One person must rip out a fingernail. Another has to injure himself. One is ordered to cut off part of an ear, while another must damage an eye. Ayla gives them just 3 minutes to complete their task. Anyone who fails will die. Terrified of the consequences, the contestants begin carrying out the gruesome orders, severely injuring themselves in the process. However, Francis cannot bring himself to do it, and just like that, he becomes the loser of the game. Just as Ayla is about to punish him, Joe steps in and provokes Marcus, telling him that if he wants revenge, this is the perfect chance. Marcus immediately grabs a knife and lunges at Francis. A brutal fight breaks out between the two, and in the end, Marcus manages to kill Francis. Seeing this, Ayla is thrilled. She says Marcus has made her job much easier and deserves a reward. She asks her grandmother to bring him a glass of juice. Without thinking twice, Marcus drinks the entire glass. But it isn't a reward at all. It's poison. Within moments, the poison takes effect, and Marcus collapses to the ground, writhing in agony before dying right there. Now, in this terrifying game, only Tom and Joe remain alive. Meanwhile, Edward discovers a photograph of Tom's father, David, inside Tom's wallet. The moment he sees the picture, he freezes in shock, as if he already knows David. But before he can think any further, Ayla arrives to call him for dinner. Edward quickly slips Tom's wallet into his pocket, making sure Ayla never gets a chance to see the photograph. Ayla then orders that Tom and Joe be taken to the next room and that their cars be disposed of as well. A short while later, Edward enters the room to move them. But just then, Ayla's voice comes over the speaker system, asking Tom about his car because she can't find it anywhere. That's when everyone learns that Tom didn't drive himself there. His driver dropped him off. The revelation hits Ayla hard. She instantly realizes that someone outside the estate knows Tom came here, even though she had specifically instructed everyone to arrive alone. Without hesitation, she activates the device attached to Tom's leg and shocks him with a powerful electric charge. Under pressure, Tom gives up the password to his phone. After checking his messages, Ayla discovers that David isn't Tom's driver at all. He's actually Tom's father. Ayla immediately calls David and lies to him, claiming that Tom is seriously ill and needs to be picked up right away. Worried sick about his son, David wastes no time and heads straight to the estate. Meanwhile, Edward lines Tom and Joe up against a wall and begins tying their hands. But Tom has secretly hidden a knife beforehand. The moment he sees an opportunity, he attacks Edward and tries to escape. Edward quickly goes after him. During the chase, he shows Tom the photograph and asks who the man in it is. As soon as he's certain that the person in the picture is indeed David, Edward says the same balloon code word that Tom and his father often use between themselves. At that moment, it becomes clear that Edward may be connected to Tom's family in ways no one expected. After that, Edward drags Tom and Joe into the final room and ties them up. Just then, the front doorbell rings. David has finally arrived at the mansion. The moment Edward opens the door, he recognizes him and says in shock that he thought David had died years ago. But before he can say anything else, Ayla suddenly appears, and Edward immediately falls silent. Ayla brings David inside and within seconds attacks him as well. When David regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up. Now he has become part of this horrifying game too. With a smile on her face, Ayla says that even though her original plan has changed, it doesn't matter. Sometimes unexpected opportunities turn out to be even better than carefully planned ones. She then tells David that he must now become a part of this family. And with that, his first test begins. Ayla hands him a pair of pliers and orders him to pull out one of his own teeth. If he refuses, Tom will be killed. To save his son's life, David endures the unbearable pain and rips out his own tooth, successfully completing the challenge. Meanwhile, Edward is secretly preparing for the final stage. He brings a bottle of celebratory wine for Ayla, but deliberately spills it all over her clothes. Furious, Ayla storms off to change. This is exactly the opportunity Edward was waiting for. The moment she leaves, he places a towel near Tom. Hidden inside the towel is a knife. it's now clear that Edward wants to help them escape. After that, he willingly goes off to face his own punishment. Tom quickly cuts through his ropes and frees himself, his father, and Joe. But Joe is still terrified. He fears that this might be another one of Isla's twisted games. Tom reassures him that Edward is genuinely trying to help them. He hands Joe a gun and tells him to protect David while he goes to stop Isla himself. As soon as Tom steps out of the room, he runs into Isla's mother, Camilla, who is viciously beating Edward for spilling wine on Isla. Tom intervenes and kills her. Edward thanks him for saving his life and warns him that Isla is still in her room. Tom immediately cuts off the tracking device strapped to his ankle. But the second he does, alarms begin blaring throughout the entire house. Hearing the alarm, Isla rushes out with a weapon. When she sees her mother's dead body, she's completely stunned. At that exact moment, Tom attacks her. However, Isla manages to escape back to her room and desperately contacts her grandfather for help. Tom follows her, and a brutal fight breaks out between them. After an intense struggle, Tom finally shoots and kills Isla. With Isla's death, the terrifying game finally comes to an end. But then Tom discovers something shocking inside Isla's room. He finds photographs and records revealing that this is actually a cult that has been kidnapping and hunting victims for many years. Tom rushes downstairs, and together with Joe and David, they try to escape. However, the remaining cult members immediately begin chasing them. Somehow, the three manage to survive and get away. At the same time, Isla's grandfather learns that their hideout has been exposed. To erase all evidence, he burns everything to ashes. Soon, reports of mysterious disappearance and unidentified bodies spread across the city. But the police never uncover the real truth, and the cult survives somewhere in the shadows. Because of this, Tom and David are forced to go into hiding at Chris's cafe to stay alive. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also, subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.